On this episode of Edge of the Web.
They're just pulling back on the spend as a knee-jerk reaction, which is a bad decision. And I'm sure as an agency, you're probably telling them it's a bad decision. They might be seeing it as, oh, you're just trying to save your own butt, and keep your own revenue. But really, it's a bad decision to just completely stop things. Stop bidding for your own brand even.
Your weekly digital marketing trends with industry trend-setting guests. You're listening and watching Edge of the Web. Winners of Best Podcast from the Content Marketing Institute for 2017. Here and see more at edgeofthewebradio.com. Now, here's your host, Aaron Sparks.
I have no idea what a Coywolf is. None whatsoever. It's like some sort of sea turtle or something. All right, so if you're new to the show, welcome to The Edge. Hey, thanks so much for joining us. This is Edge of the Web Radio, episode 348. And it's 8, right? No, it's 30. I keep on doing it. 349. Thanks for joining us. I'm your host, Aaron Sparks, I think. Every week, we actually bring you amazing guests from around the planet to be able to chat about trending digital marketing tactics. We unpack a key marketing strategy topic for our digital marketing audience. Whether you are part of an agency or freelancer or part of a firm, this show is for you. Be sure to check out all the recent shows over at edgeofthewebradio.com. Again, if you're new to the show, welcome. We always love to have new listeners and new audience members. So here's the ropes of the show, what we do each and every week. And welcome back. We had a bit of a hiatus as everything had to shuffle around here regarding recording and shutdown and what have you. So thanks for joining us on this odd Friday here. Actually, it's Good Friday, so happy Good Friday to you. Each week we start with our YouTube live cast. You can always check it out. So check us out over at youtube.com/Edge of the Web. Find our podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Spreaker, iHeartRadio, Spotify, TuneIn. So right after the show, we gather all that great audio and push it into all the different aggregators. You can also find all the information on our social feeds, everything we talk about. And then you can also see the transcripts over at edgeofthewebradio.com, show articles, as well as all the show notes that we're culling as we go through the show. So that's kind of the topography of what we do each and every week. The title sponsor of the show is Site Strategics. We are a pioneer in the agile digital marketing realm. So our core specialties are SEOs, SEM, social media marketing and management, conversion optimization, as well as omni-channel media, broadcast. Very similar to what we're doing here. We actually developed a studio to do that very thing. So check us out over at sitestrategics.com or just search for Agile Digital Marketing. You'll be able to find us there. We are results-based marketing that actually works. And if you're interested in what Agile is, it means we actually read the dials and adjust. Who thought that would be a thing? So if you're interested in what we do and how we do it and how we bring results to our clients, give us a call over at 877-SEO for Web or 877-736-4932, or just go over to sitestrategics.com, chat with us, and we'd be happy to sit down and talk with you on Skype or Zoom and be able to unpack some really cool digital actions that you could do right now for your own brand. All right, so I'm going to introduce my cohort in crime here at the studio, and he is well sealed inside of his production room. How you doing, Jacob?
Doing fine. How are you,
Jacob? I'm seeing a little bit of growth there.
Yeah,
you're kind of furring out there.
I'm doing the whole working at home, don't care.
Yeah.
This is the first time I've done anything to the hair for 3 weeks.
Really?
2 weeks. I don't know. I'm rotating through all my hats at home. So far,
I've noticed that. I've noticed that
on
our
hat every day,
on our virtual calls, on our Zoom calls, or our Uber calls.
That's right.
You're donning the different hats on the regular basis.
See how long it goes before I have to start repeating. But
you're kind of turning into a chia pet.
A little bit. It'll happen. I mean, there's no place to go to get your hair cut right now. So.
I know that, but I bet there is some sort of cobble service that could come to your home.
It could be.
I
mean, I've got a pair of clippers.
Do you remember the Flowbee?
Yes.
Oh,
that's the stock to buy right now.
Absolutely. Go buy some Flowbee stock. If you don't remember that, that's an 80s thing right there. It was a trimmer with a vacuum.
No, not even. It didn't come with a vacuum. You
had an
attach
attachment
it to your own vacuum.
That's right.
Yeah. And so just suck all your hair up.
Absolutely. And woe be it to the kid that had their mom do that because everything was
Right.
one size.
I think we're going to take my son. We're going to do a mohawk here pretty soon. 'Cause I do have trimmers for that, so
Great.
who cares?
Great. That's fantastic. I think we're going to shave all the kids' heads.
It's safe, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And we just got to get all the potential bugs out of their hair, right?
Exactly.
Boy, I don't want to say that on the air.
It's the COVID bug.
It's the COVID bug.
The
All
hair,
right.
yeah.
Well, we certainly hope everybody is safe and well. All the listeners of Edge, thank you so much for listening to our show on a regular basis. We want to make sure that you know who's coming up on the show. We've got Amy Bishop coming up next Monday, coming up 4/13. As well as the indomitable Lily Ray coming up on the 20th of April, and many more in the queue coming up here soon. So if you're interested in joining the show, give us a shout over at info@edgeofthewebradio.com, or you can contact us right off of the website. And if you're interested in having us interview somebody that you'd like us to interview, just give us a shout, and we'll certainly pursue that. Set your reminders on YouTube to get notified whenever we go live with those shows. Edge fans, we still want to hear from you, and we're doing a quick poll on the site, completely anonymous. Love to hear back from you to let us know what you'd like to hear more of in 2020. We've got some really good responses coming in. But jump over to the site real quick. Let us know what you think. Few questions, and if we don't have that particular answer, there's an other field. So make sure you give us some feedback here, because we want to deliver the content that you're asking for on a regular basis. Thanks so much for everybody who has actually given the feedback, because it is going to be helping us steer into what you're looking for. All right, so that's the show housekeeping. Let's spin around here. We want to make sure that you pay attention to our news podcast, our bonus podcast of our show. Each and every week we bring you the trending news of the day, and we're going to have that right after the show gets aired. So jump on there. We have some great news articles that we covered with Jon Henshaw of Coywolf. But for right now, let's pivot around and meet this week's industry expert.
Now it's time for Edge of the Web featured interview with Jon Henshaw, founder of Coywolf.
And not Coywolf. That's all. You probably want to actually register that domain, John, though, because it's going to go gangbusters as soon as we start.
Coywolf.
Coywolf.
Yeah. Well, and I do want to clear up that it's not a sea turtle.
It's not a sea turtle. It is not.
And it's also not a shy wolf. I want to make sure that's clear.
Where does Coywolf?
Okay,
oh my God, I'm still doing it. Where does Coywolf come from?
So Coywolf. It's the wolfing. It's actually a coyote that is wolf-like because its ancestors crossbred with wolves a long time ago, and so coy wolves which are really a type of coyote, live in North America, and the reason why, there's a lot of reasons, but one of the reasons why I picked that name, besides the fact that it was available, was because they're really highly adaptable to their environments. And so they kind of take the best of a coyote and the best of a wolf, and they're just really smart.
They're just one badass coyote. That's
well, they are, and they can live in suburbia and everywhere else, and they just adapt really well as their environment changes around them. And I thought that was kind of a really good way of looking at how digital marketers have to be today.
Absolutely.
Because things are moving so quickly and moving all the time, particularly in my world of SEO. It's just always changing.
And you know what? You've adapted quite well. The last time you were on the show, you had a great audio studio there at the office, and you've adapted quite well to your home studio.
My home studio, yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. So congratulations. You are epitomizing the coy wolf.
Yes, I have adapted and evolved.
And you're absolutely
slower.
You're absolutely right. I mean, we all have to right now, don't we? Everything's moving, everything's shifting on us, and we're actually going to be talking about that on the show. But first, I want to introduce you to our listeners. Jon is actually the co-founder and CMO of Raven Internet Marketing Tools for SEO, social media, and paid search. Co-founder and CMO of Raven Internet Marketing. And before creating Raven, and we highly recommend go checking out Raven. Raven's a fantastic tool set for analysis and reporting. He didn't pay me to say that either. Although I can keep on saying it if you're interested.
No, I'm not with Raven anymore. I sold it in 2017.
I
so
know.
but it's my baby, and please buy it. I guess
Yeah.
I won't see any money anymore. But
no residuals whatsoever, huh?
Say what?
No residuals whatsoever. Well, we'll move on from that topic.
Okay, all right.
Anyway, he was also an internet strategist and partner for Sightening, a performance-based internet marketing firm in Nashville, Tennessee. And prior to working at Sightening, he was also worked as an interaction designer for Visa in Denver, Colorado, where he helped develop web applications for the consumer and corporate customers. So what are you doing right now, Jon?
Right now, I with the exception of Coywolf, which is kind of my side experiment extravaganza, that I get to do all the things. I'm going to be coy and just say that I work for a large media company and do SEO for them.
Very cool.
Love it. It's like the best job. I work with the best people and really cool stuff.
I dig it, and no harm, no foul. I mean, this is the environment. We all have to be able to be adaptable as well. And we certainly dug into Coywolf last time on the show. But tell me what your job entails in your space.
So I am an SEO.
Yep.
And I've been doing it forever. Before SEO was a word. and what I do is anything under the sun to get my content to rank organically in Google. And organic is just a term that means you didn't pay for it. And it just pretty much just means that whatever shows up after the ads is organic. And so that's what I focus on every day. And everything I do from a work perspective is how can I get a particular piece of content when somebody searches for something to be the first or second or third result out of millions. And I love it. It's a huge challenge. As I said earlier, things change all the time. Google changes what seems like daily sometimes.
Yep.
And I have yet to get tired of it. I love the challenge of it. I like it when Google changes because it's a new it's just like it's a new thing for me to figure out.
Yeah.
And I enjoy testing and experimenting and seeing what works and what doesn't work. And the feeling you get when you discover that thing that does work, particularly when maybe not a whole lot of people know about that, is pretty great. And especially when you can then take that and you can apply it to all of the different sites and maybe the way you produce content or whatever, and you see that work. So I would say in a nutshell, that's kind of what I do. I would also say that SEO has changed somewhat in that I see it as sort of overlapping with most other sort of digital marketing practices. There's hardly any part of digital marketing where I would say SEO doesn't touch. In other words, you could have an entire content strategy or what you're going to do with your site or whatever it might be. You can even do offline stuff, and it could affect SEO. And so I think that what we've seen in the past maybe 5 or more years is, companies have been figuring that out, and they've been including SEO into most of their decision-making processes. And I think if you look at the most successful online publishers that are out there, big, small, whatever, and even just businesses, the reason why they're doing so well is because they've incorporated SEO into their process. It's not just, SEO, you make sure that we have our meta tags, or whatever. It's not that anymore. It's I think that somebody who is really good at search engine optimization is also a strategist, and there's somebody who understands all of the different channels that are out there, and how if you approach them in certain ways, then you can win a lot bigger than just having a good paid ad. You can also improve that landing page. You can also end up making that content rank for free. And if you do, then you can get a tremendous amount of traffic, and you can also get a significant increase in your revenue. So
that's the core of it, is that SEOs have been, for a large part, embraced by marketing teams, realizing late in the game, but realizing that SEOs are strategists, and our SEOs are looking at the data.
Good ones are. Good ones are.
Yeah, let's qualify that. But even to the degree, more so than most advertisers and even PPC in that space, because the research it takes to do SEO and be able to understand consumer intent and be able to actually navigate content based on that is now being really embraced by digital marketers across all lanes of the omni-channel that a broadcast there. So you're right, is over the course of the last 5 years, that data strategist, that data analysis concept has started to really take or nest at the core of some really good successful data marketing strategies, right?
Well, and I can give you another example, which is with social media marketing. So for a long time, social media marketing was seen, again, as a separate function, void of SEO or anything else, because it just didn't make sense to people on paper. But the reality is that SEO also overlaps with social. And a more concrete example would be with Google Discover, which is, we know that Google does care about social signals, and they do use social signals. And one of the observations that's now, I think, kind of public, at least in the SEO world, is that they use Twitter as a signal, and based off of how something is shared, how a piece of content is shared, and who it's shared by, and all the factors around that, that can actually help trigger getting a piece of content to show up on Discover.
And isn't that amazing? Just as a sidebar, because for years we were told that social signals were not a factor in ranking, and we're in that space where authority and trust is at a particular factor coming right out of social, and is giving SEO a good lift. Yeah,
I think it is, and I've considered things like a Twitter profile to sort of be the replacement of Google authorship.
Wow.
I know that I think it's Bill Slawski. He's written about different patents and stuff, and one I think I read about recently was Google's ability to understand a person's writing, and so therefore they can even know that somebody's an author without even having the author's name on it or whatever. So I mean, Google's doing a bunch of sophisticated things around that, but I also think that they use things like a Twitter profile as a sort of like entity to associate, sort of like that web of connections around something.
Absolutely.
And so I would say years ago I started just linking to my Twitter profile off of articles that I would publish or write, just to sort of put those two things together. And so it's all kind of interconnected now.
No, it absolutely is. It absolutely is, and I appreciate that kind of the setup there, running talking about SEO and the value there. Now, I led the show with a key concept here regarding the crisis that we're in right now. And I want to bring back some of the comments that we had in our news podcast and circle back around here for a moment, a little bit later. But first and foremost, I mean, we feel right now that there's an uncertainty, obviously brought on by the COVID-19 virus. Communities, businesses, individuals continue to take preventative measures to keep each other safe and slow down the spread of infection. And we all recognize where we are in that space. But consumer behavior is shifting in the markets. And throughout history, the U.S. has endured and survived various recessions. This is not a nationwide or worldwide recession. It doesn't have the weight of what a recession is. This is causation. This is shifting markets because you have to be in your home. Consumer behavior is shifting based on proximity, and the local markets, the foot traffic is obviously changing the dynamics for so many businesses. So companies have to adapt. They have to adapt and be able to be agile, like the Coywolf, right? See how I did that?
That's really beautiful. It's just remarkable what you did.
So you have to have efficient processes, and I mean, especially in the volatile market conditions and demands, you got to be able to change quickly. But brands have to continue positioning their brands, especially in a crisis. I'm gonna give that to you first. So, what are your thoughts about the kind of this first rung? Everything's changing, and all companies are looking inward of how they can save on costs. I mean, we're hearing about thousands of people getting laid off at Yelp. There's a number of things that are happening that companies are making some dire or some immediate and drastic changes in what they're expending out. When it comes to branding, what can suffer if companies do not continue to support their brand in the marketplace?
You know, it's before I can answer that. I mean, it's where my mind is right now is just the uncharted territory that we're in. Because as much as I will give you answers, you know, as far as, well, I think it's this or that, whatever. I do think it's good to preface with, I have no idea how this is going to play out. You know, in other words, like nobody does, even the experts aren't even really sure. And you know, and again, before I get to sort of the answering the brand question, this is a bit of a test for almost like who has prepared, or if they haven't prepared, what are their resources, you know, beyond. And so even if people decide to execute on the things that maybe we suggest on this show today, you know, they may just, even if they believe that's what they should do, they may not be able to do it.
No, they very well may not have the resources.
Exactly.
To be able to,
so I just wanted to like
this. Yeah, absolutely.
throw that out. So it's kind of like, you know, we could talk about this, but it still may not match somebody's absolute reality.
That's a good preface. I appreciate that.
So with that being said, things are rosy, and no, I think from a brand perspective, there's a lot of things that you can do right and a lot of things you can do wrong. And I think that a lot of us are even seeing that. If you spend any time on Twitter, which of course can be a garbage fire, you know, depending on what you're looking at, you can see people making mistakes. And whether, you know, in some cases, people are trying to keep their brand alive by sending the wrong message, or maybe being a little tone deaf or whatever. And then there are other people who aren't doing anything at all that maybe should be doing something. And it's such a difficult balance to strike, because I would say that I have seen messaging from brands that actually is good and appropriate, and yet they still get lumped into this sentiment of, I'm sick and tired of getting emails from people about coronavirus or about COVID or what they're doing. And at the same time, it's like, well, but that was actually kind of the appropriate thing to do. Maybe your issue is with something else, but since you can't control the consumer, that's what I'm saying. It's sort of like, oh, it's really delicate. I know that in even just how I've done things with Coywolf and the emails I send out, I'm reticent to bring it up.
Yeah.
And yet at the same time, I'm worried about the message it would send if I don't mention it. I mean, this is that weird sticky place that I think that all businesses are in at all sizes. And so things that make sense to me for a brand from a perspective of maintaining visibility with their customers or potential customers or whatever, are things that I think either send a message of this is how we're helping our own people, this is how we're helping our community, and if relevant, this is how we're helping you as a customer or even a potential customer. And so I personally don't have a problem as a consumer, as an end user, with any company saying, you know what, we're just going to waive fees for a couple months, assuming they can afford that.
Right.
Because that to me is probably at the peak of a smart marketing move, because you essentially are saying to new people, come on in, use our stuff. We're not going to hold you to a contract even after it's all over. You want to leave, but you totally took advantage of our platform. Fine. I think that's a good move because, one, at least gets them in there. They get the email address, and hopefully it leaves a good impression on that person. And so maybe they may not continue to use it now, but they might use it later, or they might, maybe they were laid off, whatever it might be. They might get a job at another place and say, you know what, we should use this software. We should use this service because I did use it briefly, and I used it during this pandemic period. And it was pretty good, and I think it'll solve our problem. So I think that it can pay off for brands down the road.
Yep.
But it also, for your existing customers, pays off, for you with them, because it increases brand loyalty. I mean, it's one of those things where there probably are a lot of people, for most companies, particularly like, I'll just use SaaS as an example,
Right,
that are kind of like, I don't know if I can afford this anymore. I mean, I'm looking at, I'm running in the red right now, and as much as I use this tool sometimes on a daily basis, I'm not sure I can afford it right now, and I might have to cancel. I think that it would behoove that company to reach out, to offer that discount, to whatever it might be, even give a free month or whatever it might be, to both keep that customer so that they don't get some crazy out of control churn rate from this,
right.
But to also increase brand loyalty with them.
Absolutely.
So that's, I like those approaches. I think those are good in this particular moment in time.
Exactly. If you can't afford it as an organization, that you can actually reduce those monthly fees, you are in a space of helping that user decide to hold on to maybe both tools they're looking at, as opposed to deciding to scrap one and just stay with another. If we're talking digital marketing tools, there's a lot, and any digital marketer probably has a number of different platforms they use for different analysis and what have you. And I'll be straight up with you, is that we're going through our laundry list, our bandolier of tools that we use, and we're looking at, okay, which ones do we want to actually pull back on and maybe come back around to after that, because we want to make sure that we're doing we're needing to be conservative in our resources. Obviously, this is not the same as we were 3 months ago, so we've got to make sure that we're making prudent and pragmatic decisions. If the SaaS companies in this space offer up that type of extension or that type of reduction of fees, it certainly does help retention of the clients, as opposed to forcing them to make a decision, right?
Yeah. Now, I just thought of the most brilliant marketing tactic.
Right here, right on the show, right here.
Right here. It hit me. It was like a brick just came flying. It hit me right in the head, which is probably why this idea is going to be so bad. What somebody should do is, so part of this whole toilet paper problem, so I've read, is that it has to do with the balance between toilet paper for businesses and toilet paper for consumers. Okay. And so it's a lot of it has to do with, it ends up, a lot of us went to the bathroom at the office and or at a restaurant. It ends up that we have really messed up the balance of that. Now we're just completely,
it's a toilet paper ecosystem.
Right. We're just completely destroying our home plumbing instead of somebody else's plumbing. And it's so what somebody should go do is they should just go to local businesses and be like, can I just buy all your toilet paper? and then have this amazing, paid ad, whatever it might be, of like every new user gets a roll of toilet paper.
Oh my gosh.
and as a sign of loyalty to our existing customers, not only are we going to give you 50% off this month just to kind of help you out, we're shipping you some toilet paper. Holy crap, man. I mean, I feel like I should be paid for that idea.
Wow.
It's just,
I think you are right. That was just a terrible idea.
Oh, I know. I mean, there's definitely a brick that hit me figuratively.
But if they actually run around and buy all the businesses toilet paper, if they keep it coming each and every month, right? And they just dispense one roll, right?
Why isn't there a new toilet paper subscription service?
Exactly.
Right? I mean, that
roll of the month. Roll of the month.
Wipies. Wipies.net. I don't know.
I thought you were going to go to reusable toilet paper, and I was just going to cut you off right there.
No, yeah, one of those those rolls.
All right.
And we have to also cut this part out.
Yeah, pretty much. All right, let's pull this back.
I think we've been cut off.
All right, let's pull back here. All right, so there's the opportunity for businesses to reduce their fees in this light, and that has to come at it's a financial decision for every different finance department, every different CFO in the organizations. Now, let's talk about businesses, small and large, whenever they're deciding to either stop advertising completely, not just their engagement with their consumers. When businesses stop advertising, opportunities open up. This is the ecosystem as well. When others pull back, there are windows of opportunity that present themselves. It's not just, okay, there are other players out in the game, and we can ride along and keep it status quo. You have opportunities. These changes in the competitive landscape mean, right, possible growth in market shares, improved advertising deals, brand awareness for those who continue to advertise. And that's the big deal. If you can afford it, we have that asterisk there. But you got to realize that this is changing, and you have to look at opportunities, not just pull back, clamp down, hunker down, and weather the storm. Because if this goes to a longer degree, we also have the other shoe to fall or brick to fly through the window, is that there are going to be businesses that aren't going to be there, right? I hate to say it, but if those who are financially strapped getting into this very well may not suffer through this, and God forbid that happens, but it's going to be an eventual consequence here. Those employees will go someplace else, and the marketer that stays in that space, the company that keeps that brand going and presents opportunities to their potential prospects, right, during this moment in time, can bear fruit to a great degree, because we're in this very odd scenario that if you have the ability to stay with it, what additional fruit is going to be born whenever we come out of this mess, right?
Yeah, I think so. I think that there are things you can do, which is sort of what we were just talking about before, which is doing things that can sort of maintain and potentially even increase brand loyalty that don't really cost anything other than lack of revenue. But at least you might be able to furlough some employees. You may not be able to do the ad spend,
right,
but at least you can literally stay alive and hopefully eventually come out stronger after that. That may not be possible, like you said, for some companies. Some companies aren't going to make it, and those people are going to leave. And in this situation, it does create new opportunities for other people. It's a lot of it is timing and how you were positioned at that time. Mm-hmm. I know that in circumstances when things were tough, I think it was like in 2008 or something like that. Yep. That's where a lot of innovation occurred. It was when people lost their job, people had a lot of time on their hands, mm-hmm. and were trying to figure out what's their next thing. And I know that I think it was Grubhub or maybe, and even Uber, and there's some really big names that were all started around that time. And so I would assume and figure that the same thing is going to happen this time around. We're going to end up seeing things that 5 years from now came out of this, from the innovation. But I think, the other part of what you were talking about is, but what can the companies who still do have some resources do, or how can they take advantage of somebody else's disadvantage? And I'm not an expert at all on paid marketing, but I would assume that I want to be careful as I say this, because I don't want somebody to do something against somebody's trademark, right, or to do something predatory. But there is an opportunity for somebody with the resources to truly go after somebody else's customers. Mm-hmm. I mean, there definitely is that opportunity. I mean, it's like, from a personal standpoint, from things that I went through at Raven at certain periods, mm-hmm. And from an ethical standpoint, I don't really want to encourage it that much. But if you could do it in a way that wasn't hurting an individual, right, and wasn't simply just vulture-like, I definitely think that in good taste, if there is such a thing with this, you could definitely do some paid marketing. You could definitely do some content marketing in a way that would pick up on the deficit left from companies that can't do anything at this time. And I would assume that it might be cheaper to do it now too. So it could have been before that you couldn't even compete with certain companies because the bidding, price was so high and everybody just kind of had their whole budget towards it, mm-hmm. on lockdown. You could do that. I think where I wouldn't, if I were a company, and I wouldn't feel bad about going after another company, is if they were making poor decisions during this time. So I think a good example would be, we've all heard about, if we have any friends that do any paid marketing, and it sounds like maybe even you're experiencing potentially some of this, potentially with some of your clients, who knows? Mm-hmm. They're just pulling back on the spend as a knee-jerk reaction. Exactly. Which is a bad decision. And I'm sure as an agency, you're probably telling them it's a bad decision. They might be seeing it as, oh, you're just trying to save your own butt, and keep your own, revenue. But really, it's a bad decision to just completely stop things, to stop bidding for your own brand even. I think if people have the resources and they're much bigger than yourself and they're making bad decisions like that, mm-hmm. Then I have to say that's a great opportunity. I don't have many ethical issues with that. If you're a smaller player, this might be your chance, yes, to take that loan or use the money that you have to completely overtake the ad visibility and everything else you can do that you can think of, mm-hmm. within reason, fiscal reason, to go for that. I think that is a very valid tactic and overall strategy. Absolutely. So let me share some stats with you. iCrossing's VP of Programmatic, Amanda Bestold, she published a blog on March 27th. There's a few days passed, obviously, but her point is still valid and it's still growing right now. 46% of the consumers are using social media more than a week ago. Okay? This was back on the 27th. Visits to news sites are up 33% as people look for more information regarding the virus. Visits to e-commerce sites like Amazon, Walmart, and Target are up 3.8% and continue to trend upward. We're actually going to check in with our friends over at Tenuity to find out what they're doing in that space, because that's a huge growth potential in marketplace advertising. So gave you 3 different lanes there of advertising in social, on news sites with possibly display ads, as well as in the marketplace. Those areas are going. So if you're looking for new tactics that you haven't executed yet, and we're talking to all brands, big and small, if you haven't read the tea leaves of where consumers are moving, right? Look at it. Look at the data, because there are trends right now. You got to go where the consumers are. So instead of just shutting down because all of a sudden the areas that you were advertising in are drying up, use those resources smartly and move where those consumers are. Yeah, I think that's absolutely what they need to be doing. I mean, and that goes back to the adapting to what changes around you and might change, quickly.
Again,
in this
Coywolf,
case,
right?
Oh, that's brilliant. And I think really a lot of what we're talking about is more around the paid realm, which is if your ad spend has been over here, and now that is suddenly somehow dried up because that's not what people are doing, then I think it's twofold. It's not just doing what you just said, based on sort of what's the stats are showing. So it's not just changing the channel, it's also changing the message. It's changing. It's not being tone deaf.
Right.
It's not simply shifting what you've been doing. It's shifting the channel and also and shifting what it is that you're actually showing people within that ad. And then you would need to test this, but you likely would want to try some things that are more altruistic in how you do your messaging for your brand, not just trying to sell somebody something. It might be you're literally just getting your brand out there, but you're pretty much just telling people, here are some good resources,
and we're still here, kind of thing. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, or what I said earlier, which is, you're going to social and do your advertising, but the advertising is now more geared towards the audience and basically says, we're doing 2 free months, for whatever, or we're doing this discount to help people, just something that makes sense for now and is not some cookie cutter type thing that maybe you were perhaps doing before just because it worked.
Yep. You got to look at your message, and you got to look at your destination, and adjust accordingly. Not only is there a shift that you need to do as a brand, recognizing where your consumers are now and what they're going through, because everybody is in their own respective levels of not only panic but concern. But on top of that, we're dealing as consumers in a whole nother realm of pressures, right? And those pressures can be met with ethical and cultivated messaging that can help and advocate for that consumer to be able to make better decisions. You don't hard press sell them. You come alongside them and connect with them as a helping factor during this period of time. And it cannot be disingenuous. It's got to be real. You have to have your values and your mission and the core concepts of the company right in front of the consumer, and you've got to own it. Otherwise, consumers now in this digital marketing space can sniff spin. They can see right through any type of shadiness. And right now is a space where brands can truly identify themselves more than any other time before. You're on stage, and you've got to be able to show legitimate and an authentic concern and the ability to assist decisions wherever they are in the decision-making funnel for somebody who's looking for a particular product. Sorry, didn't mean you want to rant there, but you got to have that particular set of motives, or you're going to lose in this space, because consumers they're making so many different decisions right now for what they're spending. I mean, I got some other stats real quick. I mean, literally 9% are holding off of buying home. There's a study that was done here just recently with Global Web Index data. Nearly a third of internet users ages 16 to 64 have delayed booking any vacations. Obviously, another quarter of respondents have actually held off purchasing flights. Slightly fewer have actually held off buying concert and theater tickets. That makes sense. But 9% hold off buying home appliances and devices, 7% down on technology devices. There's a dampening of purchasing, and that means that you have to make even a better persuasive argument of how from a comparison of devices. If you're actually deciding on what to purchase, consumers are actually going to take their time, not only with their finances, but evaluating products. So you now have an opportunity to be able to show the differences of your product as opposed to another product, right?
Yeah, you kind of touched on two things. The first one being genuine, and so from that perspective, you're right. If anything, probably people are even more sensitive than they have been before, and could react in an adverse way. And so if you're a digital marketer who's trying to, or strategist who's trying to figure out, well, what's the best thing, for me to do, it's really just your research is to spend time online. I mean, that's your research. Your research is to spend time online as a human being, and just look at what other people are doing, and then take stock of how the things that other people are doing affect you.
Right.
And then kind of keep track of that. Be like, I'm not going to do this because that makes me angry, or it makes me question where they're coming from. So, you can kind of do your own research that way. And then you can also keep track of the things that make the most sense, to you. And then the other part was just the shift in how you're doing things, or what you are producing or haven't been producing in the past that you might want to do now. And so I think the example you gave was, what? Consumers have the time, and they have to be even more careful because they don't have the extra money to just be like, I'm going to be decisive and just go with this because I don't have time for this stuff. No, they have the time. And so those comparison charts you've been putting off, probably a good time to do that. The one tactic that's been around for a while is to write articles that are, you versus a competitor.
Right.
And the SEO part of that has always been that you try to steal that traffic for somebody who might be searching for something else, but then you can get it because you're basically saying it's, this company versus that company, but it actually goes to yours. And then you try to write as honestly as you can if you're an ethical person, and you just kind of go, look, these are the differences. We think we're better, try us out. We have a trial.
Right.
And if you have a lot of competitors, you write a lot of those different articles. Now is the time to do that if you haven't been doing that. And so I like that point you brought up of considering the fact that consumers have this time. Consumers don't have can't just spend frivolously is not the best word for this, but just can't spend as
impulsively
as much as they have.
Right.
Impulsively.
Right.
In the past. And so what would it take for you if you were in that same position to make an informed decision and write that content? And in the SEO world, I think you mentioned this much earlier, but maybe when we were going over the news, the idea around intent. And so I would say that historically, there's always been this idea of short tell, 1 word, 2 word phrases, which in my world, we almost, we kind of refer to it as a vanity phrase. It's like the client really wants to rank for this, but that may not be the right thing. That may actually not drive the most amount of conversions for them. It's actually this longer phrase that is closer to the intent of what they want.
Right.
And typically, unless it's super competitive, if you actually write your content and you try to rank for that longer phrase, you'll be able to, because people aren't thinking about that. But that's actually what most people are searching for who want to take that action. Their intent is, is basically that I'm ready to buy something that does this for this very specific thing, maybe with this name or this action. And if you optimize your content for that thing, then you will likely be able to rank for it, and you will likely have a significantly higher amount of conversions because of that, because you're getting the most of the people who are coming in on that particular search. That's what they want to do. And if you can convince them, because you've also said, well, what would make me want to buy this in this particular state, then you're probably going to get somebody to sign up or purchase or whatever it might be.
Actually, you know what? You just brought us to another point of going back through your old content and looking at it in a new light. And refurbish some of the old blog articles to contemporize it to a particular period of time. You may actually be able to, and that's always a good practice to kind of rotate the oxygen tank, so to speak. But I mean,
it's a great practice.
It absolutely is.
I mean, definitely make sure that you aren't already ranking first. that would be a horrible idea. You're like, oh yeah, I'm going to update everything, and it's like,
yeah, yeah, so exactly. No blame us for that. You got to make sure you qualify it first. But yeah, you're absolutely right. Is that these spaces in which the consumers are making more and more decisions that are being weighed. There's a whole nother area of content that should be unfurled right now to be able to not high pressure, but be able to give comparisons. And it's that Maslow hierarchy, that consideration phase. Now it's a place where you should probably roll that out. Don't wait until don't wait on this, because this is exactly where your consumers are actually evolving. I mean, marketing is going great inside, and sales are going great inside of Amazon and Walmart because it's a delivery service, and there's opportunity to be able to evaluate products in there. Giving backdrops and to customers to be able to understand and evaluate. Right now, we all have time on their hands, and we're spending so much more time. I mean, a 46% increase in desktop activity.
It's pretty wild.
It's crazy.
Especially because everything was going mobile for so long. It's the best way to describe it is these are strange times. I mean, they're definitely strange times.
Very strange times, and you certainly need to be able to adapt to those. So there's some great concepts here to use for your marketing strategy. I think wholeheartedly, unless you can afford it, we would recommend you don't stop your marketing. Just listen to, pay attention to what's happening with your consumers and what trends are actually leading you to. And there may very well be a great opportunity to move where your competitor's not, and at the same time be able to make even a better argument to be able to relate your brand to those consumers, where your competitors may not actually be adjusting whatsoever. If they're tone deaf to what's going on here, there's your opportunity, right?
Yeah, I think there is a lot of opportunity. I like that you brought that up. The message from me is always going to be, don't be a jerk. Because somebody will turn around and do it right to you.
Absolutely.
So if think about what you're doing and think about the lives you might be impacting and stuff. But definitely opportunities, definitely voids that have been created because of people who financially can't, or because they're making bad business decisions.
Yep.
Do that. I guess that's more of a message to a business, but I think the message to the digital marketer is take the time to look at what those voids are and what those opportunities are, and either go back to the client who went way down on their spend or stopped doing their spend to try to convince them otherwise, and then alternatively, or in addition, if it doesn't compete against maybe a particular client, to seek out maybe new clients to say, by the way, hopefully in a non-spammy way, if you could do this, just reach out to them and say, because of this, there are these opportunities, and I can help you do this if you want. I have a lot of experience in this area. I think there's opportunities for both businesses who might be listening, but also, digital marketers to deal with existing clients that have pulled back, and also a way to potentially get new clients who might have enough resources to get something going. And if there really is truly a void, one of the best things is most agencies know to get a client excited, is for them to not have to spend that much and to quickly see results. And I think that the time right now is pretty ripe to be able to pull that off because of the fact that there's such a decline in ad spend and other marketing approaches.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. John, we didn't really get the chance to deep dive into SEO like I would like to. I'd love to have you back on the show to go a couple rounds on SEO, where we've been, the sheer fact that it's still around and it's one of the top
very much still around
marketing tools out there. Just saying, people, if you're not in SEO, This is the game right now. But we'd love to have another conversation with you just about that. So would you be up for another round of this?
The idea of asking me to talk about SEO, you're the one who's going to regret it.
Yeah, exactly. I know my audience whenever I'm saying this.
Because I like to talk about it.
Yeah, and we certainly appreciate you coming back to the show, and we would love to talk to you again in the near future. Wrapping up, Jon, we do appreciate your insight and your thoughts today. It is a very a very strange time, but we're going to get through it. We're trying to just give some recommendations of meerkatting up and understanding the landscape. Just don't hunker back down into the hole and right through the storm, because there's opportunities there, opportunities to change your message, but also opportunities to be able to get in front of consumers where maybe some businesses are receding right now. So all that said, we always like to wrap up with a couple quick questions. What bugs you about your industry right now?
The thing that probably bothers me the most, by industry, I'm just going to say SEO.
Okay.
Is for whatever reason they treat each other like trash online.
Mm-hmm.
There's people have a need to call out anything and everything that they might disagree with or think differently on. And, I'm not sure if I'd use the word trolling. I think it's just more of, people need to chill out.
There's an opinionated bunch out there, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean, I am not for positivism all the time, type of thing. That is not me.
No,
I'm
it's
not
not
for
you.
that.
No, we absolutely know that. That's absolutely not you.
Yeah, I mean, I like to make fun of things. I'm sarcastic and whatever, but at the same time, it's just kind of like, just let it go, man.
Yeah.
Just let it go. Like, just because you don't agree or this person's doing something stupid, just don't say anything. Just let them be stupid.
Don't point it all out. Right.
Yeah. So that's the thing that bothers me the most right now is the negativity.
Got it. Well, conversely, what excites you about your industry right now?
It's so weird. I mean, I love it. I've been doing this for so long, and I still really I love the change. As much as it can be infuriating because you've invested so much time or done something and it's worked so well for so long, I like the challenges. Like I think it's interesting when Google does something that dramatically changes what the result looks like. And that thing you were doing before, which was just money, is slightly altered. I like figuring out either what can I do to maneuver in a way that I can maintain what I had before, or trying to see where the hockey puck is going and going, you know what, screw this. I'm going to move over here where I think it's going. So I'm going to be ready before anybody else gets there. So those are the type of things that excite me. I actually embrace the change just because that to me is the opportunity part. That's the, I get to flex my brain and I get to strategize and I get to think of completely new tactics that I haven't used before or modified tactics that might work now that didn't work before. I love it. I will have to say, it doesn't always work out well. And no, I'm just saying, I mean, as I'm saying this, I'm thinking of all my friends and I'm thinking of one person in particular. It's like, he had to completely pivot, not even pivot. He had to like shut this down and start something completely new. So it's not all roses. And there's a lot of stress and things that go along with that. So it's not always good, but I'm just saying, it's for the most part, the glass is half full for me when I look at that. I like, from an intellectual standpoint, the fact that it changes and that I have to continuously change myself and how I approach something.
Keeps it fresh, keeps it new, keeps it exciting, doesn't it?
Yep.
Excellent. So we certainly want to promote Coywolf Pro at Coywolf.pro.
Yep.
Tell us real quick about that application.
Yeah, so Coywolf in general it's a network that I'm building, and so like I just launched a review site, and that's coywolf.reviews, and you'll soon figure out that I'm using general top level domains because I'm insane. But there's a reason for that, and I actually am planning on presenting that at a conference as soon as we have conferences again.
Yep.
But it's basically me being able to test and experiment and do things to make me sharp and be on my game. But it's also, I've always wanted to have a subscription thing. I've always had these ideas and things I wanted to write that I don't want to just give away. And so the Coywolf.pro part is what that is. That's a place where other digital marketers it's $9 a month can come in and get behind the wall content of long form content, guides I've made, research I've done, step-by-step stuff, usually around WordPress, that isn't easily available or easily known, where I've done certain things and I want to share it with people. But I don't want to share it with everybody because then everybody will do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Type of thing.
I mean,
so it's my little place to do that. And then there's also Coywolf.community, yet another domain
look at
that has a really good online discussion forum that is also behind the wall. So you have to be a member of Coywolf.pro to get access to that, and that's all about. I mentioned earlier, I'm sick of all the negativity in social. So, one of the rules in that community is to not treat people like trash and, or I'm going to kick you out. I mean, I want a civil discourse about the things that we do. And I want it to be insightful, and I want people to help each other if they can. And that's basically what happens at Coywolf.community.
Pretty much, don't be a jerk.
Don't be a jerk. I mean, I've been accused of being a jerk, but I never mean bad. I always mean well. I mean, it's just because if I'm...
Hey, eventually everybody's going to be called a jerk at one way.
Yeah, and that's okay. I can live with it. I've lived with it all my life this far, so I can live with it now. So.
All right, man. We certainly appreciate your time today. Make sure that for all of our listeners, track Jon down on Twitter at Henshaw, LinkedIn at Henshaw, on Instagram, Jon Henshaw, and Mastodon, henshaw.social at Jon. Just wanted to throw
that's
that
a whole
out.
other topic.
It is. Well, all right. So, sir, we really appreciate your time today. Fight the good fight, and we'll certainly get back to you on unpacking chapter and verse with SEO because, man, there's been such a convoluted pathway that we've experienced, and it's still around. It's still happening, and it's still a valuable tactic for any digital marketing campaign. So we really appreciate the time today, and we wish you the best and safest pathway through this mess that we're in right now, man.
Thanks for having me, and obviously I wish the same for you.
I appreciate it. It's always fun to bring you on board. All right, don't forget to like and subscribe to Edge of the Web Radio on YouTube. And if you're really feeling up today and you do have some time, drop us a review over at iTunes if you would, and just search for Edge of the Web. You'll find us right there. Make sure you check out all the must-see videos over at edgeofthewebradio.com. That's where we have the transcripts as well as all the audio and show notes for each and every show. So check that out as well. Next week, we're going to be talking to Amy Bishop regarding PPC best standards as well as PPC during this period of time. And from all of us over at Edge of the Web, make sure that you're safe and sound, and let us know how we're doing if you would. And don't be a piece of cyber driftwood. Until next week, talk to you next time. Bye-bye.